need a light so I can smoke away this pain. I need a light so I can smoke away this pain.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 6 of Elevated Culture, brought to you by The Clinic. This is episode 6, and we are talking about the sense of sight. And before I jump into this a little too much, I do want to preemptively brief everyone and let you know, for those of you who have been listening and continue to listen in, one, thank you so much for doing that. We really appreciate it. And for those of you who are new listeners, we really appreciate you taking the time to tune in and to listen to us and join the conversation. That's something that we would really like everyone to do, whether it's through social media, whether it's through an email, whether it's through a conversation with one of us or someone at the lab or the clinic or the bank. We really appreciate that. And this month we've been talking about the sense of sight. And, it could go so many different ways, but the sense of sight and being able to see the amount of people who have been listening, the amount of people who have, given their critiques, their comments, everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's all been great. It all helps. And, I'd like to say that I really appreciate and thank all of you listeners. For hopping in, taking an hour and a half out of your week, twice a month and giving us a listen. I hope you'll continue to do so. I hope you'll continue to tell your friends. And, even if you don't, we appreciate you lending your ears. So we are going to do something a little bit different, on this episode 6. So usually, when we started all of this, we said, okay, at the very beginning, of this, we're going to have 2 episodes a month. One of them is going to be shorter. It's going to be the first one. It's going to be a little shorter. We're going to do some news and topics. We're going to do what you token about, that sort of thing. And then the second episode of every month, we are going to do an interview with someone very prominent in the cannabis industry, someone who has really made their mark, elevated the culture. Whether it be through the bank. We had Jay from the bank in earlier, a couple episodes ago. We had Kim Eastman, the lab director from the lab, come in and talk to us, which was great. And, this time, this is episode 6. We should be having a guest, but I can't give away too much, but I can say this. We do have some amazing guests lined up for the next couple of months. And without giving away any names or, spoiler alerts or anything like that, I do just want to let you know that this episode is going to be Ryan and I just talking about some news and topics, what we're token about, things like that. And just know the next episode coming up after this is going to feature a very, very special guest, someone that we are honored is lending their time. And I think it's going to be great. So get excited about that. If you are not already excited. So I guess we are going to do some news and topics. We are going to get into what you token about, but talking about the sense of sight. I mean, I've got a sight to behold in front of me, my friends. Once again, I hope you all will give him a warm welcome. I know I did. He is, well, I would not say the man of the hour. I would say the man of every hour.
Oh, wow.
Ryan Cook, everybody.
Those are big shoes to step into, the man of every hour.
Hey, man. I mean, how does it feel to wear them? I mean, I wouldn't
know. They're big shoes. They're big shoes. Now, thanks a lot, man. Thanks for having me here again.
Right. Thanks for coming back.
Had a great time the last time. Excited to be a part of it again.
We had to make you a part of this, a consistent part, and happy to have you. And I think it's a great addition. So, so welcome. So, as I said, it's episode 6, Elevated Culture, brought to you by The Clinic. And we've been talking about this month. This is, you're one episode removed from when you were on it with our lab director, Kim Eastman.
Sure.
But this month, we're talking about the sense of sight. And that's something that, I kind of always ask whoever's on here, but I'd love to implore you and get your opinions. What is the sense of sight to you? What does that mean in regards to elevated culture, in regards to the clinic, the industry, that sort of thing?
Well, that's a great question, Matthew Stafford. The sense of sight. I mean, I think in general, cannabis, has so many effects on our person, and of course, there are some exciting opportunities when you are talking about the sense of sight that not necessarily metaphorical concepts, right? I mean, we're talking. I think in general. Product right now, when you go into a dispensary or really anywhere in this industry, visual inspection is a huge component of what's going on. And so I think this month, what was exciting for us was on the practical side was to more talk about, individuals seeing these incredible strains that we're producing and seeing these incredible concentrates and, having an opportunity to come in and check out a lot of the different products. And so along with that, though, is of course, the more metaphorical concept of sight. And, it's like, I think, the clinic in general, I mean, we really want our patients and customers to see, who we are and, really what we've been doing for them for years. And so there's some fun concepts that are kind of going on in the stores and on social media and that are really, really kind of hovering around those points.
I like it, man. I like it. And I talked about, the last time we did a podcast, the sense of sight and how you really, the sense of sight is so important throughout the entire process, throughout cultivation, throughout extraction, throughout post-harvest, drying, trimming, curing. I mean, it really is something that drives the quality of this product, and it's something that you can mess up if you're actually not looking at it. You're not eyes on, hands on. We were talking about the sense of touch, a couple of months ago, but now we're talking about the sense of sight, and they kind of go hand in hand there, pun not intended, but it's there.
One of the cool things that we're doing in the stores right now that I think, feeds into all of this is that there's some incredible photography, and paintings, that have been hung in the stores. They're all for sale. They're all for an incredible cause. We're raising money for the Rocky Mountain MS Center. It's a group here in Colorado that has a facility in Westminster, Colorado, that is a MS center. Allows individuals that are battling MS to come in on a daily basis. There's classes there. It's more of a college type atmosphere.
So it's like a campus almost.
It really is. I mean, it's excuse me. It's very cool to see what they're doing for those individuals on a daily basis, and it's just a great way for the community to really grow.
No, I think that's awesome. And speaking to sight, it's you're seeing the awareness, right? In another sense. Right? Seeing the awareness.
Absolutely. I mean, I think there's a lot of different ways that you can look at it, but I think, hopefully individuals come in, they experience the art, they experience the products that we have on the shelf and, and really immerse themselves into the sense of sight this month.
I love it. That was a great answer to a great question. So everybody, as we're talking about, we are Elevated Culture, brought to you by the clinic. And, I would be a little remiss if I didn't talk about a little bit of clinic news right now. There's some clinic news going on here. And the clinic news is that there is a huge sale coming up because it is the 4th of July, also known as Independence Day. So between 6/28 and 7/19/2018, we are having a sale on bank and lab products only. So you're going to get $25 grams of live resin batter, sugar, and sauce, which is,
That's ridiculous.
It is kind of ridiculous, isn't it?
That's a great price.
It's a great price. I know I'll be going. Also, buy an HTE pod, get a device for a penny, and that device is a $30 value that packs Era. And then on top of that, on July 4th, we have quarters of flour for $17.76. What does that mean to you?
I'm literally saluting over here.
I'm watching it.
This is our Independence Day, people. Come out and get a $17.76 quarter. I mean, that's like less than a $75 ounce.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
On top of that, we're celebrating another, if you can believe it, holiday. So on 7/10, we're going to be doing $20 a gram of the lab products at all of our clinic locations.
That's a day's Uncle Sam is saluting. Okay.
It's a day I think we're all saluting, if I'm being honest here. And everybody, just please remember to swing on by any of the clinic stores between 7/28 and 7/19, because you're going to get those $25 grams of live resin batter, sugar, or sauce. You're going to be able to buy an HTE pod and get a device for a penny. You're also going to be able to get an ounce of medical flour for $79 and an ounce of recreational flour for $89 out the door. And don't think we forgot about lifting you up, because those lifties are there, and it's going to be $10 for a pack of lifties. It's summertime. Get up into the mountains. Enjoy some elevated culture while toking on some lifties. And then don't forget, July 4th, $17.76 for a quarter. And on July 10th, 7/10, everyone, $20 a gram of all lab product. It's a blowout. Man, those are some amazing deals coming through at the clinic.
I appreciate the announcer that was capable of doing that.
It just popped in. I had to jump out really quickly. And someone just hopped in, did that, and all of a sudden, here I am back in front of the microphone again. But regardless of that, I think the dates are important. The July 4th week, the July 4th holiday, and then 7/10 coming a week right after that. So it's two great holidays, two amazing sales going on at your local clinic locations. So please swing by and check it out. But before you do that, you still have some time to remain here with us, to kind of engage, to elevate your senses, to elevate the culture. And in order to do that, we're going to kind of move into one of my favorite segments on this podcast. And it is a segment that we like to call News and Topics. That's what I like to call it. Just a little news and topics. Yeah, this is one of my favorite segments. Have you been reading up on the news? I think you do it every day here.
I try, but I hopefully you don't school me here.
Well, there's a lot going on. I know you're always on the cutting edge here, but have you heard this? I think a lot of people have, that the FDA has approved a cannabis-based drug derived from cannabis plant for CBD, and they've approved this for epilepsy.
Yes. I have heard about it. Amazing. First off, this is exactly the right direction that I think, the entire cannabis industry has been fighting for.
I actually think it's really amazing, because the drug is called Epidiolex. All right. And so it's a formulation of CBD. And it's derived from cannabis that doesn't contain the THC that, the federal government, you would think, because it's the FDA that has approved this. So it's below that limit. But it's been approved for two different types of epileptic disorders, right? So we have a couple here, and both of those. So I'm going to butcher this, and I apologize to anyone who can. I've looked it up, I listened on Google. But we have Lennox-Gastaut syndrome, I believe. I throw the accent in because I don't think you can say it without properly. But basically, it causes seizures in children, starting in children, usually age 3 to 5. So almost all children who have this syndrome develop learning problems and an intellectual disability, according to the FDA. And many also have delayed development of motor skills, such as sitting and crawling. And so most people with this syndrome require help with usual activities of daily living. So if you think if the onset's at 3 to 5, then that is definitely a horrible lifetime disorder that these people are dealing with. And the second one that we have is the Dravet syndrome. But it's a rare genetic condition that usually shows up in infants, starting with fever-related seizures, and basically it progresses to other more severe seizures. And so basically this drug has gone through its 3 clinical phases and studies. This is not something that has been like Marinol, where it's synthetically reproducing. This is actually derived from the cannabis plant, which I think is a big deal. And the FDA approving it. Now we have a little bit more ways to go because basically as part of the approval process, Epidiolex must be rescheduled from its current Schedule 1 substance to be able to be made available to patients. So they're saying rescheduling for Epidiolex is going to occur within the next 90 days. This is kind of a big deal.
It's a huge deal. And I think most people probably out there are well aware of Charlotte's Web. Charlotte's Web was a CBD strain that, came out quite some time ago. Charlotte, who, at the time, very small girl, I think she was 3 years old, was experiencing, upwards of 200-300 seizures a day. I think she was really where things became well known about CBD, and it's unbelievable to what I remember. In talking about cannabis and seeing the industry get started, and seeing this strong push towards this new cannabinoid that individuals were talking about. And I think, it's been hard for any of us who were in the industry from the very beginning that, yes, THC is, of course, something that is extremely well known. But there's so many other cannabinoids that, we really didn't talk about a lot. And so in the first several years, I think that, CBD was one that, really became well known. And I think a lot more people were discussing it on a more of a regular basis. I've been, I think initially when someone talked to me about it and told me a little bit about CBD, it was, sort of deemed the most medically beneficial cannabinoid that was on the market. And so, of course, things have progressed quite a bit in the last decade here.
Yeah, and there are a lot of other cannabinoids, now that people are talking about CBN, CBG, and, even those that maybe we don't know yet, or haven't been able to breed for.
Without a doubt. And I think, what's been exciting though is to see, CBD coming into more products and being used on a more regular basis. I think, individuals are using CBD as really more of a daily supplement, rather than necessarily, something that is for a specific ailment. And so, I think it's been amazing to see Charlotte's success and going from, 200-300 seizures a day to maybe a couple, or one. And I can't imagine.
I can't even imagine, but that's life changing. I can only imagine.
I'm not, I honestly, I'm not a parent. If I had to put myself in a parent's shoes and watch my child go through something like that on a daily basis, I honestly don't know how I could manage. And they were extremely strong. And Charlotte's mom has had a huge impact on the cannabis industry in general, and a complete activist, and really what she's doing has been pretty amazing. I think, where this is going though. And one thing that I guess is real about this is that, Dravet syndrome, that Charlotte, I think that's how you pronounce it. So, it's a very, very rare condition. I mean, I think it's like 1 in 20, 30,000, individuals, end up having a condition like this. And so, with having something that rare, it's unbelievable to find something that, I think most probably parents or individuals suffering from something like this, it would be difficult to find a product available on the market, which obviously cannabis wasn't, that really could help with this syndrome.
Yeah, I mean, you think it's, 2018 and we've seen so many medical advances, just throughout our lifetimes. And, we're relatively young in the scheme of things, and so many medical advances in our time. But being able to see something like this, something plant derived, and something that is kind of giving a new hope, I think is a big deal. And you touched on the point of it becoming more accepted, a little bit more mainstream, being able to purchase these products, that sort of thing. And that's true. It's something that, as a daily regimen, like you said, some people have this become a daily regimen. It's a daily regimen that I give to my dog. In all honesty, every morning and every evening with her food, she gets 3 drops. I know the exact dosage. It's been tested. It's purchased legally, and it's processed. It's hemp derived CBD. But she had a rough upbringing before I got her, and just being able to give her that, and with an ACL surgery, which is so much less than Dravet syndrome. It's amazing to see in those small spaces how well, this can help and how broad it is. And now look at how broad it is on this big spectrum, being brought down by the FDA and being, accepted for 2 different types of epileptic disorders. And on top of that, they're saying that there's possibly a third that's going to be brought on. And they now are about to, I think they got funded for their 3rd clinical trials on this. If not, they're really close. But I know that there's another epileptic disorder that they're pushing for, and I think that this is pretty big deal, especially when you come to medicine nowadays. And you talk about something that's plant derived, not synthetic. Like we were talking about Marinol really quickly, a few minutes ago, and it's something that, in my opinion, why would you synthesize something that's natural? In order to try and cure something, why would you not try and compound or concentrate that natural product? Why would you synthesize it?
Most of it's got to be because we lack in testing. We continue to lack in testing. I mean, there's no research behind any of this. I mean, what these guys have been doing already is amazing. Yes, but we need so much more of it, because whole plant medication is absolutely a benefit. And I think if we continue to, focus on specific cannabinoids that have non-psychoactive effects, I think we're probably missing something here. So, government needs to get off their ass here and allow these things to start happening. And I think we're getting closer and closer to that as we continue to fight. But I mean, this has been a fight for a long time. I think people who support and advocate for cannabis, recognize the uphill battle that we have, and recognize that it's not over. We've had states change, and from both medical to recreational now, which is amazing, but we have such a long way to go.
A long way to go.
Tonight is an exciting night. I mean, tonight we got
some elections. Yeah.
We have Jared Polis, in the primary here.
Yep.
And I think all of us are very excited to see him, head towards the governor's office.
Yeah. Making moves there for sure, and it's an exciting night. We're not watching live, but we are recording a little bit before. We should be watching, and when everything's going to be called. But we're hoping for the best there. But Ryan, you actually just kind of talked about as you're talking about the studies and everything like that. It kind of leads me into this next article here, actually, and this is a study that they're talking about in Newsweek. And this is an article called "Marijuana is not a gateway drug." And really, at the core of this article is scientific studies. And when you start looking at this, there's just a lot going on. And you have a lot of people who, by popular vote, as you said, we've done a great job in medical and recreational reform. But, there are still a lot of politicians. There are still a lot of other people. There's still kind of some pushback. I mean, we're all hopeful. We've made great strides. We still need to continue now. We don't need to just ride that high wave, because that high wave can get much higher. We can really do this. So, but when they're talking about a gateway drug, what they do is they really talk about what hard drug use is. So they kind of define this at the beginning of the article. And so they say, when analyzing what acts as a, quote, gateway to hard drug use, there are a number of factors that play. So none involve marijuana. So the main factors are, and you can whatever terms you want, but these are what they're saying the main factors are. So poverty and poor social environment is a gateway to drugs, according to a lot of research. Association with people who use hard drugs is a better predictor of hard drug use. Certain mental illnesses, such as antisocial personality and bipolar disorder, are found to predispose some people to use drugs. But, I mean, that's a vague sentence there at the end, found to predispose some people. And then other research notes that criminalization and prohibition are real gateways to harder drugs. And these aren't main points that they stick to in this article, but I think it's a good frame of reference when you're talking about a gateway to hard drug use. And before we dig in a little deeper here, I'd love to know your opinion on this.
Well, I mean, cannabis as a gateway drug is fairly laughable. I mean, I think most individuals that have most likely used cannabis have absolutely used alcohol or tobacco prior. I think it's a bit of a stretch to say this is the leap into dangerous waters. At the end of the day, I mean, I think every person takes their own choice and creates their own path. But cannabis, I mean, I think what we're continuing to see is, like, with our opioid epidemic and other drug issues that we're having in our communities, cannabis could really be the gateway to really saving those individuals and helping our entire community take a step back from something that we've been seriously suffering from.
No, and that is such a great point, because the article kind of comes to, spoiler alert, everyone. If you haven't gone on here and read this, I would actually suggest that you do. But, one of the big things that comes out of this is something that you just said, is the fact that when you're talking about rehabilitation, especially someone who is abusing opiates and someone who's, affected by the opioid crisis, no one ever talks about the studies that are being done that say cannabis actually helps them, and helps them get off of that. And maybe something that they had never used before, which is, again, an argument against, this gateway drug thing. But basically they don't harp on that. What they're saying here is that, there's a lot of these reports and these studies that have been largely ignored, and that's one of the things. And so they're saying that, like, everyone's talking about how crime is going to increase, and all these things. In Colorado, Denver specifically, I mean, being an example, living with it, breathing it, we're seeing that that's not the case. You look at the statistics. But, it's also surprisingly here, when you start looking at what they have, the evidence, it's opiate overdose deaths have gone down in these areas statistically. And granted that it's a small, small little blip and dot in the statistical pool that's being taken at that point in time. But I think it's really relevant. And I think that those types of things will lead to greater research onto what's happening, because they talk about the things here, the things that are talking about it being a gateway drug, and you look at it and it's basically scare tactics. It's and it's also like racial profiling and incarceration. And then it's also just basically like the drug policy and the fear mongering. that's been going on since late 60s, early 70s.
And I don't think it's necessarily stopping anytime soon. I mean, we continue to have this be the fear, and but I mean, in the same sense too, I guess you have to also look at the positive side of this. Like I'm saying, is that yes, we're seeing opinions change, and I think start to morph a little bit over time as we continue to see cannabis spread not just here in Colorado but across the country, and more doctors, physicians, counselors are seeing this as something that might be more therapeutic than they necessarily think it is turning individuals psychotic.
Right. And I think having this FDA approval right now for this drug to be able to serve people with epileptic disorders, I think is a huge step. And I think that's a huge step into taking away that idea and that mythology that this is a gateway drug. Because the way that I look at it really, man, is like, just because I drank a kombucha doesn't mean I'm gonna drink a beer or have a hard drink later. Just because there's trace amounts of that. And when you look at what the studies are, at least the studies that they're citing in this general public research, a lot of it is they're looking at methamphetamines, they're looking at opiates, and they're looking at like cocaine abusers, right? And what you're producing and what's happening to you and your physiology and everything when you consume cannabis is much different than any of those. I never have thought about like consuming cannabis and then being like, now I want to go do something more in what they say is more intense and completely opposite of this, which I think is...
I mean, I would obviously completely agree, but I think it always goes back for me to this is why we need more research when we do these studies. I think we can actually get this kind of information out to the general public, and people can feel a little bit more comfortable. The days of reefer madness are over. It's time to start looking at this as a product that is absolutely utilized. Potentially in a daily regimen, whether it is for medical relief or whether it's for general relaxation,
general health. Yeah.
I think that's to each his own.
I definitely think it is, and again, I don't know how I've ever done this without you because you're so good at natural segues. I don't think you even know the articles that I'm about to bring up. I'm sure you've read them and are in the know, like I said. But this brings us into a country that in recent weeks here has actually legalized cannabis. And we're talking about our neighbors to the north, actually where I am from.
Oh, Canada.
Yes.
Our home and native land.
Can you sing anything past that?
I don't know.
Yeah. No, you nailed the key. But no, man, this is a big deal. Like, this is a very big deal. This is a policy that, Justin Trudeau said that he was going to work towards and fight towards. And when you're looking at statistics and we're talking about gateway drugs, right? Then you look at a tweet that he posted, Justin Trudeau being quoted as saying, it's been too easy for our kids to get marijuana and for criminals to reap the profits. Today, we change that. Our plan to legalize and regulate marijuana just passed the Senate. #promise kept. And this is, I think, speaks to not only that article and the topic that we were talking to before, but something that you also brought up, which is going to be research and scientific study. What do you think here?
I mean, first off, hats off to Canada. I mean, it's an amazing accomplishment to see a country be able to set a target date. I mean, it's within reaching distance here. I mean, it's pretty amazing. I am really excited to see what's going on in Canada. And in fact, actually, we're seeing a lot of U.S. companies, I think, start to really benefit from the fact that there's so many companies that are, currently on the stock market up there. In fact, actually, some great friends of ours, GTI from Illinois, that is the group that we work with out there, and pretty unbelievable to see that GTI has made the move to Canada and gone public and are doing really well. So it's exciting. I think all of the individuals over at GTI, deserve a round of applause from everyone in the cannabis industry. I mean, it's a big move. So it's great to see what Canada's doing. But I think Canada also has their eye on the prize. I mean, they're working really to work with the entire world, and I think they're already shipping and exporting cannabis to quite a few different countries, and I'm sure that will continue.
It's just the start. I think, I think we have to point out that Uruguay was actually the first country to legalize marijuana's production, sale, and consumption, and that was in December of 2013. But as far as the stance and the pull as a country, this is the first country in the G7 summit that's actually been able to pull this off. Which is a really big deal. And the fact that their bill, which was the C-45 bill, known as the Cannabis Act, this passed 52 to 29. So, the odds are heavily in the favor there. So I think it's a very big deal. The bill was introduced on April 13th, 2017. And then it was later passed through the House of Commons. And then just more recently, I believe it was the 20th, the Senate passed it with that 52 to 29. And it is a historic milestone. But they also do have a lot of different regulations, thoughts on products. So it's kind of constricted right now. And they're trying to work through that. So as progressive as they are on a certain front in supplying the world, there's also some other hurdles, obviously, bureaucratically, that everyone has to get over. But I'm kind of wondering how you feel about where the United States and or other countries are with this having just happened, and them kind of trying to push these things through with different types of edibles and concentrates and being able to and produce things in certain ways. Do you think that there is kind of a gap here for other countries to catch up, or do you think it's kind of pushed back?
No, absolutely, and I think you're hitting on a good point. I mean, we're looking probably a year, 2 years out before you're even having an opportunity to see concentrates in the cannabis market, or I'm sorry, in the Canadian market. And so, with that kind of runway, I mean, I think other countries, including the United States, still have an ability to make some decisions to enter the international market and make an impact. And so I really hope that our government officials take a look at that. Again, I hope people like Jared Polis can continue to push that forward. But that's what we're dealing with. I mean, right now, when Canada legalizes on October 17th, although historic, it will be legalizing cannabis flower as well as cannabis flower derivatives. Low THC oils. But that's really where the line is drawn. Concentrate products that we know about and utilize here in Colorado, those will not be permittable in Canada. Edibles, in fact, actually are probably out, 6 to 12 months. Yep. Whereas
you're looking at what, like 2020-ish, for the introduction of concentrates, possibly.
Absolutely, and I think that's where these other countries have an ability to still step in. I mean, but it is amazing to see the regulatory environment that I think Canada is living within right now, from a sanitary requirement and the health standards that have been applied by Health Canada. are amazing. But I think it's also something that the United States can learn from when we look at if a government agency is going to be involved in the cannabis regulatory world, then create something that can be understood and adopted by everyone, as opposed to each state or local municipality changing
or province or territory as it is in Canada.
Sure. Thank you. Giving me my Canadian knowledge, my Canadian friend. Thank you, Matthew. But that's something that Canada has done that I think we can absolutely learn from. What I think they will learn from us is the regulations that we've already put forward on edibles and on concentrates, and I think it'll be very similar regulatory environment up there as it is here. It'll just be farther down the road.
Kind of what's interesting to me is the way that it's laid out now. When you're looking at those timelines, look at how quickly the industry changes now, product to product, and the way people are innovating and creating so many new products and desirable products. It seems like at a certain point, when you think about this being federally legal, I'm kind of imagining in the United States, kind of has to shuck and jive here with the industry and the innovation, because there is a lot of innovation, a lot of creativity within all of this science that people are putting forward, and people just also trying to push the science too, right?
I think concentrates are the perfect example. I mean, these are products that, although we have absolutely learned that removing the chlorophyll and plant materials that are inside of a flower is a healthier way of consuming cannabis. Yet at the end of the day, concentrated products are exactly that. They are concentrated, and therefore the potencies are significantly higher than what you would see in normal products. And, I think people have to then learn how to use products responsibly. But a much smaller amount of concentrate product might be utilized by a patient or a customer. And therefore alleviate an enormous amount of plant material that they would have consumed if they would have been smoking, say, a joint or consuming some sort of deliverable like that.
To your point, I don't go smoke a joint of echinacea.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
Like I'll take it in a tincture. I'll take it in a powderized capsule, or even, a liquid form capsule. Right. It's kind of the same concept.
Well, in a lot of these products, I mean, ultimately the way in which you're consuming and the delivery method that you choose may or may not be as effective as another delivery method. And so, when consuming a joint, I mean, I think anyone that has smoked a joint can clearly see that the joint continues to burn throughout the entire process, and therefore you are losing substantial amounts of cannabinoids through that burning. And so ultimately it's important for an individual to choose, a delivery method that is absolutely going to alleviate whatever it is, whatever, concern or condition that they're attempting to alleviate. Or if they're ultimately just attempting to consume more and not see, that loss. I mean, say if anyone's ever used a bong before, to consume cannabis, as opposed to a joint or a bowl that do continue to burn. A bong you have a little bit more control out of. But ultimately, when going into a concentrate product, I think it can be even more effective. And I think that's where vaporization has continued to become a large component of the concentrate, category in general. And that's simply based on the fact that it's discreet and convenient, but it's also very effective. You're generally not losing very much of that smoke and inhaling directly, and therefore I think providing a better experience to the individual that's trying that product.
I couldn't have put it any better myself. I think that's a great ending point, to be honest. You kind of just summed it all up, everything that we were talking about. So there is one thing that I do want to do before we get out of here, and that is something that we call What You Tokin About. So Ryan Cook, I want to know, what are you toking about these days? It could be today, it could be yesterday. What's kind of on your palate here?
What I've been talking about is something I like to refer to as Boss.
Nice.
Okay. Not exactly available out on the open market, but Boss is what I call batter and sauce. So the Boss, I'm doing, say 2 or 4 gram jars, and utilizing some different flavors and profiles that I'm into. Right now I have I've got a kosher Skywalker blend.
Oh, I actually I haven't tried that one. You had a blend the other day that was a kosher race fuel OG blend. And
that is true.
Pretty delicious.
I'm a big OG guy, so these kind of heavier Kush strains are something that's exciting to me, and I love playing with some of the flavors. I think kosher definitely has a really incredible sort of a lemon, back and mixed with that Skywalker that just have such an incredible flavor to it. I love the flavor. And so, that's what I'm talking about these days.
That's an amazing thing to be talking about. Kind of on that OG Ryan Cook, on that OG Kush vibe there. I've been actually talking about the Larry OG live resin sugar. And man, that's OG Kush crossed with SFE Kush, so the San Fernando Valley. And I haven't seen Larry OG in a little bit in the labs form, and I was pleasantly surprised when I went in the other day and I saw the live resin sugar, and when I took a look at it, and was just able to see those crystals and that little bit of amber color in it, and just the way it smelled. That is something that I'm definitely talking about.
Well, now's the time, people. Get into the stores before the 4th of July. Have a chance to pick up some of these products Matthew and I are talking about.
Yeah.
I apologize. Talking about.
We are talking about those. Well, Ryan, appreciate you coming on. I'm looking forward to some of our special guests coming up in July.
It's going to be exciting, man.
It's going to be very exciting. You guys have no idea. So if you aren't excited yet, get excited now. And hey, appreciate you stopping by. Ryan Cook, I appreciate you all lending your ears. Ryan, you have anything to say before you get out of here?
I'm super excited to be here. Thanks very much. I can't wait to come back in future months and hang out with you guys. So thanks a lot. Thanks for supporting the clinic as always.
Yeah, thank you for supporting the clinic, and thank you for supporting this podcast. We really, truly do appreciate it. We hope you guys are elevating your culture and elevating your senses, and that we are adding to that. And on top of that, we'd like you guys to add to the conversation as well. Feel free to send us emails at elevatedculture@thecliniccolorado.com. You can also hit us up on social media on Facebook. Just search for the clinic on Facebook and you'll find us. You can find the bank under the bank Cannabis Genetics, and you can find the lab under the lab infused products. On top of that, we are actually also on Instagram. So you're going to find the clinic if you just search for the clinic_Colorado. You're going to find the bank if you just search for the bank Genetics, no spaces in there. And the lab Colorado, no spaces, is going to be where you're going to find the lab. And all of those will help you with the sense of sight. Amazing pictures of amazing product. Amazing products that we produce, amazing products that other companies produce that we carry at the clinic. I think it's amazing. So I would also implore you guys and say, go to the stores during these sales if you haven't been to the stores recently, and go check out the artwork that's hanging there, because that was part of the movement for Elevate Your Senses and this month of Elevate Sight. That was something we really wanted to do, was bring in all these different artists and kind of show you concentrate arts and really get in there. So feel free to swing by the stores, check those out, hit us up on social media, send us an email, whatever you guys want to do. But yet again, we appreciate you guys lending your ears, giving us a little bit of your time, and we'll give it back to you guys. Just reach out. So until next time, elevate your senses and elevate your culture.